Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's training session. This is Stacy Kellums, and I've got an amazing training session lined up for you today. I want to first thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us, because that lets me know that you're truly committed to changing your life and your financial future. So welcome to today's training session. I want you to get a pen and paper ready, because you're going to learn a lot of cool stuff today. The topic of this training session is going to be how to generate massive passive cash flow as a private lender. Now, many other speakers teach you how to raise private money through private lenders, but our guests today are going to teach you how to become a private lender and how to make money out of thin air just like the banks do. And yes, you can do this without using any of your own money or credit. Today, we have two very knowledgeable and experienced guest speakers on the line with us, and they're going to share some information with you today. It's absolutely incredible information. Like I said, get a pen and paper ready, because you're going to be taking lots of notes. But before I introduce our guests today, I want to tell you a little bit more about them. Today, I've got Gary Boomershine on the call, and he has been in real estate since a very early age. And as a real estate investor, he's been successful, particularly in the short sale arena. His resume includes managing Fortune 500 clients at Accenture, as well as building 4 successful startup software companies from the ground up. Now, many of you may recognize Gary's name from the fact that he started a company called Sales Team Live, which does automated marketing for real estate entrepreneurs. Now, our second guest, his name is George Antone, and he is a serial entrepreneur. He's an investor and a financier as well, and he's also a best-selling author of the book called The Wealthy Code, and it's a fantastic book that teaches you what the wealthy know about money that most people will never know. Now, George is a veteran real estate investor. He's experienced in both residential and commercial properties, and he has a brilliant financier mindset. Now, George and Gary are partners in a venture capital company that I'll let them tell you more about. But what I do know is that thousands of people across America have benefited from Gary and George's teachings, and they've been able to better their lives because of their newfound financial literacy. Their students will tell you over and over again that their successes are directly because George and Gary's trainings are so intense and so jam-packed full of information that you can't help but learn from these two financial geniuses. So, again, I want you to grab a piece of paper right now, get a pen and a piece of paper, because you're going to be taking lots of notes. Get ready to, you're probably going to get a cramp in your hand. You're going to be taking so many notes. Again, and if you're just joining us, the topic of today's training session is called How to Generate Massive Passive Cash Flow as a Private Lender. We're going to not teach you how to raise private money today. We are going to show you how to become a private money lender and how to make money out of thin air using none of your own money and none of your own credit, just like the banks do. So without further ado, George, Gary, are you guys there?
We are. Hey, Stacy, this is Gary Boomershine, and it is an absolute pleasure. And I know that we've been working to put this training call together for some time, and we're really thrilled to have the opportunity. A big fan of everything that you do, Stacy, and we're looking forward to really giving some amazing content to your students and clients.
Fantastic. George, are you there?
I'm here, Stacy. Thanks again for having us on the call. We're very, very excited about sharing this information with everyone, so thanks for having us.
Fantastic, guys. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedule to share this wonderful information with us today and with my students. Yeah, it's been a long time in the making, but we finally got together, and I know we're going to have a fantastic training session today. Well, guys, I know you have a lot of information to cover, and no one is on this call to hear me talk. They're here to hear you talk, so I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to let you guys take it away. Are you guys ready to take it away and run with it?
We are, Stacy, so let's just get right to it. And as Stacy said, definitely grab something to write with and something to write on. And we've George and I have probably done this training session about 40 times. And we've been told over and over again that this 1-hour training session has been one of the best sessions that they've ever heard in their real estate investing and wealth building time. So we'll get right to it. The topic of today's call is the banker's code, how to use the banker's secrets to generate massive passive income and cash flow safer with a whole heck of a lot less work and what George and I call brain damage. And the objective of the call is really simple. It is to open your eyes. It's to open your eyes to the most efficient way to accomplish your passive income goals that's safer without having to buy real estate, own real estate, flip real estate, all from the comfort of your home. So with that, George, you want to take it away?
Absolutely. Now, a lot of us have read, the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, this book changed our lives, and we know it changed a lot of people's lives. In fact, I would say this was a turning point in my life, and I know, Gary, in your life as well. So I would say it was the reason we got into real estate investing. Now, one of the main lessons in the book is the concept of becoming wealthy. So Robert Kiyosaki defines wealthy as having enough passive income to cover your living expenses. For example, let's just say that your living expenses are, say, $5,000 a month, and you have $6,000 in passive income every single month coming in. According to Robert Kiyosaki, now you're wealthy. Now, this is because, obviously, you don't have to work anymore, and your passive income, in this case $6,000, more than covers your living expenses of $5,000, and now you can start enjoying the lifestyle you're aiming for. Now, one of the facts out there that we just found out is that over 90% of real estate investors got involved in real estate for that one single reason, which is to generate passive income to become wealthy. In fact, I would say, think about, let's just go back to the point where you started real estate investing and think about what got you excited about this. And you're going to realize the reason you got into it is because of the promise that passive income provides for an enriched lifestyle, like traveling and spending time with friends and family and giving back to the community. So what we're going to ask you to do right now is we're going to ask you a set of questions, and we want you to write down the answers to that. Now, we want you to actually go ahead and write it down. The first question is this: how much passive income are you making right now? So go ahead and write that number down. And for those people that feel that they don't have to write it, trust me, you want to write it because we're going to give you some amazing solutions that are going to open your eyes. So go ahead and write down right now, how much passive income are you making right now? Even if it's $0, just write that big zero in there. And so go ahead and take a minute to write it down.
Yeah, and George, let me just add, passive income, guys, we call that free money, okay? It means that you set it up one time, and month in, month out, whether you're on a vacation in Hawaii or you're out on a biking trip with your kids, you always have that consistent cash flow coming in whether or not you're working it. So it's really important. How much passive income do you guys have making right now? Some of you might write zero, and that's fine, but make sure you write down how much do you have coming in of passive income right now.
So the next question is, how much passive income would you like to be making 12 months from now? So go ahead and write that down. How much passive income would you like to be making 12 months from now? The next question is, what would life look like if you achieved your goal of passive income? Now, get incredibly specific, guys. Exactly where would you travel to, for example? What would you do on a daily basis? So we want you to be very specific with that. What would that new life look like if you don't have the pressures and the stress of credit card debt and things like, mortgages and children's colleges and simply not having to worry about, making ends meet? What would that feel like, and what would life look like? So the next question we want you to think about is, what's your plan to achieve that? Now, once again, do you have a very specific, achievable plan right now that will get you out of the rat race and into this new life that we're talking about? For many people, you're constantly searching for that shiny object, if you will, for that quick buck, and losing the true goal of having passive income and a stress-free living. So, guys, we've been exactly in your shoes, okay? And our desire, our goal for today's call is to open your eyes on how close you are to the answer right in front of you the whole time. So think about what's your plan. So here's our objective for this presentation, guys. By the end of this presentation, you will know the passive income formula. You will know what is the most efficient way to generate passive income. You'll completely change the way you see real estate investing. We promise you that. That is going to be a big one right there. And you're going to realize the solution has been right in front of you the whole time. Gary, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, so real quickly, quick introduction. My name's Gary Boomershine. If you guys are following the webinar, I'm the guy on the right side of the screen, and this is one of my business partners, George Antone, the less good-looking guy on the side. Sorry, George. And anyway, we're super thrilled to have this opportunity with you guys today. So real quickly, we are managing partners in a private equity company that's right here in San Francisco Bay Area. Our portfolio of companies include many. They're renewable energy finance companies, new media, hedge fund, and specifically distressed real estate financing, as well as others. We're overseeing over 8 figures of capital and assets, and some of you may have even heard of some of our ventures in the real estate niche, including Sales Team Live, NorCal Management, and Wealth Classes.
You know, one of the things also about what people don't realize is we've bought and sold hundreds of properties, and in fact, we still own many income-producing properties like apartment buildings. Now, most importantly, we're what's called financiers. We have financed all kinds of stuff from interesting projects like apartment buildings, businesses, online businesses, and in fact, just recently, we financed an infomercial that's being launched nationwide as we speak. For those people that can see the screen, it's the one on the right. You'll see some of the 12 self-made millionaires there. Some of the names might sound familiar to you guys. For example, we have Kevin Harrington from the TV show Shark Tank on ABC. He's the guy that sits all the way on the far left, who's behind some of the most successful infomercials out there. We have, for example, Barbara Corcoran, also from the Shark Tank TV show. We have, T. Harv Eker, John Asseroff from The Secret, Laura Langmeyer, Anthony Morrison, Bill Barton. We've got a whole bunch of very, interesting people. So we're very, very excited about this project.
In addition, one of our companies is the leader in financing acquisitions of distressed real estate, including transactional funding for real estate investors in Northern California. So we're financing a lot of the bank REO purchases and a lot of real estate investor purchases and short sale deals right here in California. We're actively funding millions of dollars of real estate transactions right now on a monthly basis. Also, George has a best-selling book called The Wealthy Code that was released in October, which is available on Amazon. And it's a book of a story how a very wealthy man shared with George the practical secrets to becoming wealthy. And it continues right where Robert Kiyosaki left off in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now, guys, our current project, which is one of the reasons that we're sharing this content with you, is our upcoming new book release called The Banker's Code. And like many of you, George and I were seeking to break away from that stressful corporate job and achieve that passive income goal that would provide us a whole new life. I'll tell you, we've discovered secrets of banking that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years that only the super rich have been using to make money literally out of thin air. And in fact, it was a well-known Fortune 500 CEO that originally passed this concept on to George. Now, over the last couple of years, we've been passing these same secrets used by us onto over 250 of our top students and clients, proving that they can replicate it in their local areas across the country, just like we've done in the San Francisco Bay Area. We've been hand-picking 30 people at a time for this project, normally like a guy, Jim Dinsmore, who's a prison minister in his 70s in Texas. We have a nurse. Her name is Nita in Northern California. Dave Stromswald, who's an airline pilot in Southern California. And we're literally helping them replicate this secret and generate a massive amount of passive income. So we're using these stories to prove out that we can get 100% success with our students by simply having the right commitment and the right passive income generator. I'll tell you, we're extremely hands-on in this, and we're using these stories for our national book launch later this year, so we're super excited about that.
So, guys, this all sounds, very impressive, but remember, we were where you are just a few years ago, and it all started by having the right passive income system. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because you guys might have heard with Robert Kiyosaki in his book, once you're out of the rat race, you start playing the fast track. That's exactly what happened to us. We got the passive income out there, and we're going to show you exactly what worked for us and what we'll be talking about today. So the question I have for everybody is, are you guys ready? Okay. Gary, take it from here.
Perfect. So, guys, I know there's a lot of real estate investors on this call. So what I want to do is I want you to think about the system to generate passive income. And I'm going to compare and contrast the system that real estate investors use versus bankers or private lenders. And some of you, this may be a little overwhelming. Some of this will be extremely, extremely eye-opening. But let's look at the investor. And if you're following the webinar, on the left-hand side of the screen, I'm going to put the hardworking real estate investor and what they do to actually generate passive income. And then let's look at the system that private lenders or bankers use. So as a real estate investor, the very first thing you have to do to make money, specifically passive income, is you got to go out and you have to learn the technique or the techniques that work in the current market. That could be wholesaling, it could be buying apartments, short selling, buying bank-owned REOs, vacant land, etc. You got to go learn that technique from the right person. You got to learn it. You have to understand it, how to fill out the paperwork, how to talk to people, etc. Then the next thing you have to do is you got to go start the marketing engine. So it might be like finding a stamp-licking system, like Sales Team Live to send out letters and postcards, social marketing like Facebook and Craigslist. It might be using LoopNet. And then once you do that, you've got to go talk to what we call kiss a lot of frogs. You got to go talk to a lot of people. You got to talk with sellers. You got to talk with realtors, buyers, tenants, contractors, appraisers, and talk to a lot of people. And then you got to write a bunch of offers. And either you or somebody on your staff is going to be making a whole heck of a lot of offers. And to get a good deal, usually you're writing some disrespectable offers and dealing with some objection. And then assuming that you get a screaming deal, which they're out there everywhere in America right now, then you got to go get the financing for it. And that's when you deal with the person on the right-hand side, the banker or lender. And let me ask you this, who writes the rules for financing? Is it the real estate investor on the left, or is it the banker / private lender? And you got it, the old rule is he or she who has the gold writes the rules. So assuming that the financier, the banker, private lender decides to fund your deal and you haven't given up the farm, you get that screaming deal, you close it, and then the fun starts. You start dealing with property managers, tenants and toilets, getting that property cleaned up, particularly with your contractor team, etc. Make repairs, and if there's a problem that happens, an unforeseen problem, whose responsibility is it? Is it the real estate investor or is it the banker or lender? That's right, guys. It's the real estate investor that has to deal with all the problems. If there's a lawsuit or something, whose problem? It's the real estate investor. And in that system, who's the last person to make money? The last person to make money and get paid is the real estate investor. Now, let's look at the system to make passive income on the right, the banker or the lender. Do they have to learn any of the techniques in real estate? Do they have to go to seminars? Do they have to go out and learn about short selling and buying apartments and figuring out cap rates? No, they actually sit back and they have to learn one thing, which is how to push all the risk to the real estate investor. And we call this, guys, the banker's code. They have to learn the secrets of banking, all the secret strategies that only the super rich know. Did a banker, private lender have to learn marketing? If you think about it, there's no marketing that a lender has to do. All the lender has to do is put up their hand and say, I have a lot of money to lend, who needs it? You go to a real estate club and you're sitting in a room of 100 people, and think about a private lender who says, hey guys, I've got a lot of money to fund your deals. You're absolutely swamped. Does a lender have to talk with sellers or realtors? They don't have to talk to anybody except the hardworking real estate investor who's done all the work. Does a banker lender have to write any offers? No, that's, again, the hardworking real estate investor. Do they have to deal with tenants and toilets? Do they have to deal with repairs? And if there's a problem that happens with that property, whose responsibility is it? That's right, it's never the lender. And who's always 100% of the time the first to get paid? It's the private lender. So hopefully this has opened your eyes a little bit. George, you want to add to that?
You know, one thing I want to stress here is that we're not saying real estate investing is bad, guys, okay? Some people love to get their hands dirty, and we still, you know, we have a lot of properties and stuff like that, but we're not saying real estate investing is bad. All we're saying is some people love to get their hands dirty on the left-hand side, and that's fine. However, some people just love the passive income and sort of the passive nature of that so they can enjoy their lifestyle or whatever, and those are the people on the right. Now, obviously, if everybody on the left became a banker or lender, then we've got a problem because we need real estate investors out there borrowing money from the lenders. So obviously we cannot have everybody on the call become a lender, and that's a problem. So we're saying a number of people out there just choose to have passive income without having to get their hands dirty, and that's one of the best ways to do so. Now, having said that, I'm going to ask you guys a set of questions here to really talk about risk for a second, because one of the first principles you learn about lending is shifting risk and the safety of lending. So just consider this question for a second. If you purchase a property with 20% down payment, so let's just say that this property is worth $100,000 and you're putting $20,000 down, and the lender offered you an 80% loan, so let's just say $80,000 in this case, whose money is at a higher risk? Once again, you're putting $20,000 down, the lender is lending you $80,000. Whose money is at a higher risk? Is it yours or is it the lender's? Now, some people might think it's the property owner. Some people would say it's a lender. In reality, it's a homeowner. Now, let me tell you why. Let's just say the next day you had to sell the property, and right now you have to pay closing costs, commissions, all that stuff. The lender gets paid back that $80,000, and out of your $20,000, you might be left with maybe, say, $10,000 or $12,000. So the first chunk of money that was affected is really your money, the down payment money. So the down payment money is at a higher risk in this case than the lender's. In fact, everybody needs to know this, that the highest risk money in real estate is the down payment. Now, consider this next question here. What if the lender offered you a 65% loan? Whose money is more secure now? So in this example, let's just say the property is worth $100,000, and you were to lend $65,000. What just happened to the risk here? Well, right now, the lender's money is a lot more secure than the homeowner's money. The reason is, what happens is the risk relationship between the borrower and lender is always inversely proportional. What does that mean? That means every time the lender takes on more risk, the borrower takes on less risk. However, at the same time, if the lender takes on less risk, the borrower takes on more risk. Now, it's always going in different directions. And what's happening to the risk here is that it's always shifting back and forth. It's not disappearing. So a lender would lend less money to shift more risk to the borrower. Okay, always keep that in mind.
Some of you at this point may be thinking, Gary and George, this is really great, but I don't actually have any money. How the heck could I ever become a lender? I'd love to do this. Well, guys, banks make money literally out of thin air. They never use their own money. Private lenders don't use their own money. So you don't have to have any credit. You don't have to have any of your own money to do this. And actually, we're going to show you exactly how, so definitely follow along.
Absolutely. So once again, just remember this, that the risk is always being shifted back and forth. And one of the things that lenders master is how to shift risk to the borrower. Okay? Having said that, let's step back all the way back and look at the big picture here for a second. So we're talking about passive income here, guys. There is a formula that you must follow to achieve passive income. Now, in this case, we're going to cover 3 criteria to have anytime you're looking to have passive income. So get a pen and paper ready. I'm going to give you these 3 things right now. In reality, there are actually 12 questions you have to ask, but in this presentation, we're just going to cover 3 of them. The first criteria is this. You want to buy an asset that's income producing. Now, for example, let's just say buy a single-family home that's going to rent out as a rental. So the asset is a single-family home, and obviously the income is the rent in this case. The second criteria you have to have for this passive income formula is, as long as the lender is willing to lend you the money to buy this asset. So in this case, obviously, you're getting a mortgage. Now, we're talking about assets in general here because this could apply to businesses and any other thing. So obviously, in our example with the rental property, this would be a mortgage. The third criteria in here says, as long as the income from the asset is larger than the loan payments and expenses of operating that asset. So, for example, in our example, the single-family home, the income, the rent, should cover all the loan payments and all the expenses of operating that. The expenses could be things like, property taxes, interest, maintenance, things like that, utilities, repair, all that stuff. So let's look at another example here. We've had a lot of students say, for example, I want to buy a car wash, for example, a business. So if you run it through this formula here, the business itself is the asset, and the income obviously are all these car washes, for example. The next criteria is as long as the lender is willing to lend you the money to buy it. In this case, let's just say you get an SBA loan, for example, you'd buy the business. And the third criteria in here says as long as the income is larger than the loan payments and expenses. So in this case, obviously, the business has to be generating enough money, enough revenue to cover all your loan payments and expenses. Now, like I said, in reality, there are 12 questions. We're just covering 3 right now. So let's consider, for example, this example here. Let's just say you walk into a retail store, for example, a Target or something like that. You walk into that retail store, and right in front of you, you see this black box for sale. Now, this black box, you find out, spits out $1,000 per month in passive income. So on the first day of every month, you stand there, and it spits out $1,000. So you decide to go ahead and buy this box and place it on your shelf. So what I want you guys to do right now is just look up and imagine on your shelf this black box sitting there. And in fact, you can have as many as you want. Let's run it through the passive income formula for a second. So the first criteria, once again, is buy an asset that's income producing. In this case, the black box is the asset, and the $1,000 it's generating is the income from that. The second criteria is as long as a lender is willing to lend you the money to buy it. So in this case, assume that they had a special financing deal at the retail store and they lent you the money to buy it, or you use a credit card, for example, to buy it. So in this case, you meet criteria number 2. The third one says, as long as the income is larger than loan payments and expenses. So in this case, suppose that the income is $1,000 like we talked about, and the loan payments to buy it are $700 a month, and there are no other expenses to operate this asset. So obviously now you're making $1,000 a month and you're paying $700 out. So your cash flow, your profit in your pocket every month is $300 per black box. Okay? $300 per black box. Now let me ask you this question, guys. Would you prefer the black box or the other investment vehicles we just mentioned? In other words, would you prefer to deal with the hassles of a car wash and potential lawsuits and all the employees, or a rental property, a single-family home that where the tenant could move out of the middle of the night, or someone might break in, or they might trash the place? See, the thing you have to ask yourself is, which one works better for you, the black box or these other investment vehicles we just mentioned? Now, the point I'm trying to get across here is, we do real estate deals for the sake of generating passive income and not for the sake of owning properties or businesses. I'm going to say that again because that's very important. The point is that we do real estate deals for the sake of generating passive income, not for the sake of owning properties or businesses. Now, one of the things I do in my seminars sometimes, the first question I ask is, who here loves real estate investing? And everybody raises their hand. And I tell them, well, you don't have enough properties. The thing is, at one point I used to own over 65 single-family homes, and I'll tell you, it was a nightmare. Now, obviously, with apartment buildings, it's a lot easier, but when it comes to certain things with real estate, it's not about the real estate, guys. It's about the passive income. Now, we buy real estate because we prefer that to the hassles of something called a job. However, in addition to that, if you could generate that passive income without having to own properties or businesses, would you do that? And that's exactly the point. What is the closest thing to this black box in real life? Well, it turns out it's actually private lending. So let's walk you through this example here. So let's just say Gary decides to borrow money from me, and let's just say Gary's property is worth $100,000, and he decides to borrow $50,000 from me. What he will do is he'll fill out a promissory note and a mortgage or a deed of trust, depending on the state, and that says, I promise to pay George basically $50,000 at 10%. Now, that piece of paper to me is an asset, me being the lender, okay? And also it's income producing because that's the interest I'm receiving every single month. So that allows us to meet the first criteria. The second criteria is, as long as the lender is willing to lend you the money to buy it. Now, keep in mind, I don't have that $50,000 to lend him. So write this word down, guys. This is one of the most important words in real estate and private lending. And it's called hypothecation. Hypothecation. Write this down. Now, hypothecation is when, let me walk you through this example. In this case, Gary wrote that piece of paper, that mortgage, that says, I promise to pay George $50,000 at 10%. What I then turn around and do is I use that as collateral to borrow money at the $50,000 at 7%. Now, keep in mind, he's paying me 10%, and I'm borrowing the money at 7%. What I just did was I used his piece of paper, the mortgage he filled out, as collateral to my loan. And so I got money, the OPM source for me, lend me the money to fund the deal, and now I'm sitting in the middle. So that's actually allows us to meet criteria number 2. With number 3, it says as long as the income is larger than loan payments and expense of operating that asset. That's called arbitrage, guys. So in this case, arbitrage means I'm borrowing money at 7% and I'm lending it out at 10%. That's called arbitrage or spread. Okay? So what just happened here is that I'm borrowing money at a lower rate and I'm lending it right back out to Gary at a higher rate. So let's just give some dollar numbers here as an example. He might be paying me $1,000 a month, and I'm paying the source $700 a month, and I'm sitting on $300 a month in passive income. Okay. Now, I want you to remember this. Let's go back to the word hypothecation. Hypothecation is the key to making money out of thin air. It's the same exact principle banks are using and to make money out of thin air. Now, so let's just step back for a second and let's just see what just happened. Investors have to buy a physical structure. Now, that could be a business, it could be real estate, it could be whatever. Investors have to buy a physical structure to use as collateral and deal with the hassles of that structure and asset class. However, a lender simply prints the collateral. They print a piece of paper, and as long as someone is willing to sign on that piece of paper, it becomes collateral immediately. So here's what I'm talking about. Once again, an investor has to go out and buy this physical structure, whether it's a business or real estate or whatever, and use that as collateral to borrow money. And they have to deal with all the hassles, whether it's lawsuits from employees or whether it's property tax and all that stuff. A lender simply prints a piece of paper, have someone sign on it, and that's their collateral, guys. Now, step back for a second and ask yourself this. Would you prefer to have 40 loans in a filing cabinet? So imagine a filing cabinet next to you that has 40 loans that people are paying you every single month, and you're the lender, or would you prefer to have 40 tenants? Okay, that's the difference between a lender and an investor. So it turns out, when you think about what's the closest thing to the black box, it turns out that private lending actually is the most efficient strategy to generate passive income and continuous cash flow.
And George, let me just add, the word efficient is incredibly, incredibly important. Efficient means what is the safest way to generate money, passive income. It has to do what is the least amount of work and what generates the most amount of money. And private lending turns out to be the most efficient way against any of the other strategies. In fact, most single-family properties, private lenders, not using any of their own money, typically make more money per month than that poor real estate investor who's having to fix the property up, find tenants, and maybe make a few $100s per month per real estate deal. Private lenders, it's the most efficient way. You definitely want to write that down.
And like Gary said earlier, I mean, private lenders end up doing the least amount of work. They get paid first always, and then they're in the safest position in the whole transaction. So the question to ask yourself as a lender is, how many documents are you willing to print? How many documents, meaning the collateral, are you willing to print? Now remember, as long as someone is willing to sign as a borrower, it immediately becomes collateral. So how many documents are you willing to print? So we talked about this earlier, and I'll touch on this really quickly. Who writes the rules for real estate investors? If you think about it, the real estate investors have to play by the lender's rules. The lenders are the ones dictating what the real estate investors have to do. The problem is, lenders, nobody dictates what the lenders have to do. They play by their own rules. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. And let me explain why. One of the things you're going to realize very quickly is you're going to start making money very fast. And one of the rules we tell you to do is stick to the 65% LTV. The reason we're saying that is you're shifting the risk to the borrower. The problem is some lenders become greedy and they start increasing their LTV because they feel, you know what, everything I touch now turns into gold. Well, that's what happens in the last few years with a lot of these bankers. They started doing 100% LTV loans, 125% LTV loans, and what they actually did was shift the risk to themselves and away from the borrower. That hurt the economy. So would you guys always remember that as a lender, you don't have to play by anyone's rules, but you're going to have to set your own rules and really stick by them. The other thing to remember, too, is who makes more money, bankers or real estate investors? I'll tell you all day long, it's bankers. And in fact, if you look at all the big buildings in all these cities out there, and in fact, every corner in the U.S., there's a bank for a reason. And these big buildings have a bank name on top. Because the business model works, guys. The business model works.
Yeah, rarely, George, you see bank names as the biggest buildings. Rarely will you see a flipper or a wholesaler's name on a big, tall building. It's always bankers. There's a reason. There's an old rule that real estate investors may become millionaires, but bankers are billionaires. Just think about that. And it's always the rich people with their own secrets, and they have not been sharing these except with the super rich.
And we're going to be covering something called private lending magic in a minute here that's going to blow your mind away, guys. So here we're just still covering the basic stuff. So here are some advantages of private lending. One, it's one of the fastest ways to generate cash flow. You can start generating cash flow immediately, guys, because there are so many borrowers in this market right now. The second thing is you get to use other people's money. You don't have to have money to do this. The third thing, and the fourth thing actually, is you get to leverage other people's experience. Now, here's what I mean by that. Is imagine I, as a lender, I'm lending, let's just say, John, who's a rehabber, has been doing rehabbing for 5 years. I'm lending him money. And I'm lending, let's just say, Linda, who's been doing short sales for 8 years. I'm lending her money. I'm lending someone else that's doing some other thing like wholesaling or flipping, whatever, lending them money. What I'm actually doing there, guys, is I'm actually leveraging their experience. Now, they have the crews, they have the experience, they have all this other stuff, and I get to leverage their experience, and I don't have to go and learn all this stuff. So, and at the same time, you get to leverage their time. So I get to share in their profit. However, I don't have to worry about, in fact, I'm taking a much safer position and shifting the risk to them. So I don't have to worry about my, learning all this other strategies. I get to leverage other people's experiences and time. Let them do the work. Let them do all that stuff. And one of the things you find out is private lenders end up having a lot more time to do whatever they want to do with their life. The other thing is you find out about other people's deals. What I mean by that is when you walk into a real estate club, for example, and you introduce yourself as a real estate investor, the problem with that is that the other investors are not going to share with you sort of their secret sources or their secret deals or whatever it is. What they're going to do is they're simply going to talk at a different level than if you introduce yourself as a private lender. As a private lender now, they have to prove to you that their deal makes sense, and they have to walk you through the specifics of their deals, and in fact, they have to share with you everything to prove to you that this is a good deal. Now, in one example that comes to mind is we had a gentleman that had wanted to borrow $1.3 million right here in San Francisco Bay Area, and his net worth had gone from $0 to $30 million in something like 6 or 7 years using one single strategy that nobody out there is talking about. And what he does is he buys retail and he sells retail with a very interesting strategy that nobody's talked about out there, and he was making a fortune. So we end up lending him the money because of the deal was a great deal, and we actually took that same strategy and we tried it in Santa Cruz, California. And on our first deal, using the strategy, we made $180,000 profit. That's $180,000 on our first deal, and that's just buying retail, selling retail. Now, that strategy doesn't work in this economy anymore, but it just shows that as a private lender, you get to tap into other people's secret strategies, if you will, and find out some really amazing stuff.
Not only that, George, private lending, the real estate investors do all of the work. They have to also pay for everything. So if there's appraisals and there's BPOs and there's contractor reports, it is the investor that has to actually spend all the money. The private lender pays nothing. And guys, I'm going to give you a little tip. Private lenders and bankers call real estate investors high-risk speculators and bird dogs. That's how they look at real estate investors. The real estate investors are out there doing all the work, hunting for the deals, doing all the stuff, packaging it up, and then they bring the deal to the lender. So it's the lender that actually makes all the money.
Absolutely. So here are some more advantages. You'll never have to qualify for a mortgage ever again. You'll never have to apply for a mortgage, guys, because a mortgage is something, when you're applying for a mortgage, you are acting as a consumer or investor trying to convince the bank that you need money. In this case, you're the one going to be asking people to qualify, but you will never have to qualify for a mortgage ever again. No credit required. You can have bad credit, it works. Nobody's going to check your credit. No need for good financials. No dealing with toilets, repair, tenants, negative cash on property taxes. And once again, like Gary said, investors bring you the deals and they pay for all the fees, so for the appraisal and all the other stuff. And finally, you end up truly, you end up with a lot more time to play golf and anything that's important. So that sounds great. Now, the biggest concern that people have is like, George, this is great, guys, but first, my biggest concern is what happens when the borrower stops paying me, okay? Well, I got good news, guys. You're one phone call away from having a foreclosure company take care of the whole process for you. So we simply pick up the phone, we make one single phone call, and they take care of the whole foreclosure process. However, think about this for a second. Let's just say the property is worth $100,000, and you just lent $50,000 against this property. And what happens is, in a worst-case scenario where they stop paying you, you might end up with a $100,000 property that you just paid $50,000 for. So you just got the property for half price in this example. Now, what you're going to realize very quickly is that most investors come into this thinking, I want to end up with a property. What you're going to realize as a private lender is we couldn't care less about owning the property. We want that passive income so that we can enjoy the lifestyle we're looking for. So one of the first lessons we tell you is, it's not about owning properties, it's about the passive income. It's not about owning properties, it's about passive income. So what we do is we try to work with our borrowers, and our intent is not just to foreclose and get the property, even though we'll end up making a lot more money. And many times, I should say, in a few rare cases, we end up with a property, we actually end up making 200% on our money. And that sounds great, but like I said, our intent is to have good borrowers that keep borrowing money from us over and over again. And foreclosure is the last thing on our mind. But it's a very, very simple process.
And not only that, it's 200% profit on somebody else's money because we're not using any of our own.
Exactly. So here's our promise to you guys. Private lending can be done successfully even if you have no money, no credit, and no net worth. It's safe if you know exactly what you're doing, guys. And think about this for a second. Private lending has existed for decades for a very, very good reason. Because it's safe, it's lucrative, and it's scalable. Now, what does scalable mean? It simply means that you can do as many deals as you want in any given, let's say, per month, as opposed to, for example, someone doing rehabbing that might do 3 or 4 properties at a time. With private lending, you can do as many as you want.
And not only that, George, private lending turns out this is one of the best markets that we'll ever see for doing private lending. We're in one of the biggest transfers of wealth that we'll ever see in our entire lifetime. And not only are we getting passive income, but imagine being able to share in 40 to 50% of the profits of those deals. And we're going to show you exactly how to do it. This is one of the best things. If you think about America right now for real estate investors, what is the hardest thing? What is the biggest hot button for real estate investors? It's how to get access to private money. And if they have access to private money, literally real estate is on fire sale discounted prices everywhere in America. There's incredible, incredible deals being offered everywhere as long as the investor has the money. And we're able to get huge, huge amounts of profits, up to 50% of the profits of the deal. We're going to show you exactly how to do that.
So here's we're going to talk about something called private lending magic. This is where it gets really, really exciting, guys. So make sure you grab a pen and paper because we're going to talk about some amazing stuff here. So before we do that, let's make sure we're all on the same page here. There are 3 different ways you can structure a loan, if you will. One is called debt financing, one is called equity financing, one is called the combination. So debt financing is simply when I lend money to someone and they're paying me a certain interest rate. So, for example, I lend money to $50,000 to Gary, and he's paying me, let's say, 15%. That's a fixed income coming in every single month. Okay, and at the end of the loan, he pays me back my principal plus the interest. The second version is equity financing. So Gary might say, you know what, are you okay if we just share the profit? There is no interest. So that I lend him the money, we go, for example, 50-50, and so at the end of the project, he'll pay me 50% of the profit, and there are no monthly payments. There is no interest rate with that. It's simply getting a piece of the profits, guys. Combination is simply a combination of the first two. So, for example, Gary might say, you know what, 50% of the profit is too high. Can we go, for example, 30% of the profit? And what I would do in that case, I might say, you know what, I'll take 30% of the profit plus 10% interest. So now I'm getting a fixed income from the interest rate, from the debt financing part, and getting a piece of the profits on the back end from the equity financing. So that's simply called the combination. Also, I want to make sure that we all have, we all know what arbitrage means. Arbitrage is simply making a spread. I'm borrowing money at, say, 7%. I'm lending it out at, say, 10%. Okay, that's called arbitrage. Leverage is simply the use of borrowed money, guys. That's it, the use of borrowed money. For example, anytime you you get a mortgage or anything like that. It's simply called leverage. Now, what happens when you get arbitrage and leverage combined together? Okay, this is what I call private lending magic. Okay, so let's get into some exciting stuff here. The first scenario I'm going to show you on the screen here is simply using arbitrage. Okay, so in this case, we're not going to talk about leverage just yet. Let's just say you tap into $100,000 of OPM at 8%, and you lend it out at 15% securely. Okay, now you start receiving monthly payments, and by the end of the year, you would have received $15,000 in interest. That's 15% of the $100,000. You still have to pay out the $8,000 in interest to the OPM source, and you're left with $7,000 per year in your pocket for every $100,000 of OPM. Now, that might sound okay to some people, and let me just tell you this. It's not as exciting for us. However, that's more money than most people will make with a single-family home rental. However, let's take this to a whole different level here. Okay? Let's add leverage to this whole equation here. So you take the $100,000 at 8% of OPM, and you create leverage. We'll touch on that a little bit later, but you bring in 4-to-1 leverage in this example at 8%. Okay? Because of your $100,000 now, you can create a leverage of 4-to-1, and now you've got access to $500,000. $400,000 coming from the leverage, and $100,000 from the OPM source. You lend all that at 15%. It could be across multiple properties. And now you're receiving 15% on $500,000. That's $75,000 in interest every single year. Now you still have to pay out the leverage and the OPM source, and you're left with $35,000 in your pocket every year for every $100,000 of OPM. Now, that might sound a little bit more interesting, and for some people they will say, you know what if I want $70,000? All you have to do is simply, in this example, tap into $200,000 of OPM. Remember, we're talking about $35,000 profit for every $100,000 of OPM. Okay? So for more money, you just have to tap more into OPM. However, that's not as exciting to us as what we're going to show you here in a second. Now we're going to add equity financing to this equation. So we're going to have what's called combination loans. So let's go back to the example we just touched on here. Notice that everything is based on interest rate, guys. We're just creating a spread off of the interest rate, and there is no back-end profit in any of those deals. So let's go ahead and add that in here. So once again, you get to the $100,000 of OPM at 8%, and you create the 4-to-1 leverage. That's $400,000 at 8%. Now you get $500,000 that you can lend out at 15%. So now you're receiving the interest rate every year, $75,000, but at the end of the year also, at the end of the deal, I should say, you'll receive another kicker, part of the profit, which is $100,000 in this example. So now you're receiving $175,000 per year. You still have to pay out your sources of money, the $40,000, and you're left with $135,000 of profit in your pocket every year for every $100,000 of OPM. Now, that sounds very exciting, guys. And for some people, they might say, what if I want more? What if I want $270,000? That's fine, guys. All you have to do is tap into another $100,000 of OPM. It's that easy, guys. That's exactly what banks are doing.
In reality, we're showing our students not just how to get 4-to-1 leverage, but how to get as much as 10 to even 15 times leverage without using any of your own money, any of your own credit. We've got dozens and dozens and dozens of students that are doing this every day. Not only that, tapping into the OPM is everywhere, guys. It's actually, what we end up showing you is it's literally one phone call. It's sources that you've never been taught or trained, and it's people that actually provide the OPM for this every single day of the week. It's incredible.
So basically, think about this for a second, guys, because a lot of people will freak out and say, I don't have good credit to tap into this leverage, or do I have to apply for a loan? We're telling you, what if you do this without signing on a single loan document or getting your credit checked? You can get that leverage, whether it's 4-to-1 or 10-to-1 that Gary's talking about, without anyone checking your financials, guys. And more importantly, that leverage is what's that?
Non-recourse.
Which means they don't come after you if you don't pay it. It's that powerful, guys. That's the power of private lending. That's the power of banking. And one thing that banks do, actually, is they do the same exact thing. Every time you deposit $10,000 into a bank account, now they can lend 9 times to 12 times that $10,000. So now they can create $90,000 to $120,000 worth of loans because of your deposit. That's exactly what we're doing here, guys. We're taking a source of money, the OPM, we're adding leverage and lending it out, and you get to keep all the profit on the back end. So now some people might say $135,000 for every $100,000. George, can you do better than that? And the answer is absolutely. We show people how to do $235,000 in profit every year for every $100,000 of OPM. That's part of the training.
We have a student, Tom Bregelman. He was dead broke. In fact, he lost everything, had to file Chapter 7. And in 6 months, he made over $100,000, over 6 figures. And in 2011, right now, he's on track to make 7 figures doing private lending, which is really, really killer, following the best practices and the teaching exactly as we're sharing with you guys.
And, one of the things we tell our students is you're really 5 loans away from 6 figures in passive income within 12 months if you know exactly the blueprint, which is the one we share with you. So
that's exactly why we're so excited about this, the Banker's Code and this project, guys. We've taken 250 people of our top students who have been with us for years. Here's a guy, Terry Schauer. He's been a very successful apartment and multifamily investor. And he recently went through the training and said, the Banker's Code was the most valuable information I've received in the last 15 years. I wish I had access to you guys 15 years ago. What Terry said is he goes, because he's still buying apartments, he goes, now that I understand financing and how private lenders work, he goes, my profits are going to at least double just on the apartments that I'm buying right now. We've got Jean Griswold in Colorado, who is a single-family real estate investor, really, really struggling, did everything that she was taught, but she was struggling, and Jean is making an absolute killing. She goes, gosh, Gary, I'm so glad that you picked up the phone. I actually called her and said, Jean, you got to get out and see what we're doing. This is incredible. And now she's on fire in Colorado.
You guys, imagine making massive passive income without buying properties, without doing all the hard work, without applying for any more mortgages or loans or whatever, without managing tenants, and without using your credit or money. Guys, that's the power of private lending. That's why banks don't want to own properties, guys, because the passive income that they make, the monthly cash that they make is incredible, and it's not about properties, it's about the passive income. So let's review the agenda we set forth in the beginning. We said by the end of the presentation, you will know the passive income formula, which we shared with you, the 3 criteria. We said you'll know what is the most efficient way to generate passive income, which hopefully you guys get now is private lending. We said you'll completely change the way you see real estate investing, and hopefully that is the case. And we said you'll realize the solution has been right in front of you the whole time. Guys, there's a reason that banks have the biggest buildings, and they have every corner in the U.S., every corner has a bank for a good reason, because the business model works. The solution is right in front of us the whole time. So a lot of people might say right now, this is great, guys, so where do we go from here? So earlier we asked you guys specifically, what is your plan to achieve your passive income goals? What's your plan to achieve your passive income goals? So hopefully we shared with you guys, we open your eyes to what's possible with private lending.
Let me, George and I actually found this. It's very, very interesting. The Bureau of Statistics and the Department of Social Security said, if you track 100 people in the United States all the way to the time that they get to retirement, and you looked at 100 people, on average, only one person would be considered wealthy. Only 1 out of 100. 4 out of 100 would be financially secure, meaning they actually can go ahead and retire. 5 out of 100 will have to continue working. They do not have enough passive income to retire and live the life that they want. Only 5 people. 36 will be dead out of 100. And folks, the most alarming is 54 people by the time they get to retirement on average will be dead, flat, broke. So the question is, where are you? Where are you right now? Are you one of those people that's going to end up wealthy, or are you on track to be one of the ones that's dead broke? And here's the question, are you guys still looking for the right vehicle, going after that next shiny object, that $1 million or $2 million of the get-rich-quick scheme that's out there? And are you guys looking for the most efficient way to generate enough passive income to really buy you guys the freedom of time that you're looking for? Just look at the statistics. There's the famous quote from Albert Einstein that he says, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to see different results. So here's the way we look at it, guys. The financial success is you look at your current state, you look at where you are today, and what is your goal in 12 months, and specifically how are you going to get there? And we provide the way to get from current state to goal. We call it the banker's code. It's the method that we help you. It's the best practices. You find someone who is successful doing it, you model them, and then you adopt their best practices. So here's what George and I have done with our students. We've basically, you look at the goal that you have in 6 months or 12 months. Is it $5,000 a month? Is it $10,000 or $20,000 a month? And the very first thing is you've got to find and recognize the big opportunity. Guys, you don't need 10 big opportunities to get to your goal. You only need one, and it's got to be the right one in the current market. Once you find it, you got to learn it. You got to understand it. You got to learn it. You got to go practice it, and then you got to go do it to make any money. And once you do it, guys, you got to repeat it over and over again. And for some people, they want to take it big. That's what George and I have done. We're doing that with a handful of our students where $10,000 to $20,000 per month is not enough. They want to be able to absolutely have 7 figures and be able to pass on generational wealth just like bankers do. So it really comes down to outcomes. When you find and recognize the big opportunity, and I really suggest you write this down, there are 6 key outcomes that you have to have 100% in anything that you're doing. If it's private lending, if you think that this is incredible, or if it's going out and doing apartments, you have to have 6 outcomes. This is what we help our students achieve. Number 1 is this is the big opportunity. This is it. I do not have to go to more seminars. I don't have to search anymore for that shiny object. Number 2, it absolutely has to be rock solid safe. You have to know beyond a shadow of a doubt, whatever that system is, that it's rock solid safe. It's legal, it works, it's safe for you, your family, your partners, and definitely anybody that puts any money into it. It has to be, number 3, simple and easy. You have to be able to say, you know what, this is stupid, simple, easy, and now I can see how I can get everybody else to do all the work, like pushing all the work to real estate investors. Number 4, that's incredibly important, is you have to know that that system will work for you beyond a shadow of a doubt based on your faith, based on your age and your skills and your background. You need to know, I can do this. I can actually make this thing work. Number 5, you've got to get it conceptually. So if you're going to do private lending and banking, you really have to be able to connect the dots and to be able to see how simple it is that you can actually do. And number 6, incredibly important, is you have to see a clear path, step by step, of how to get to your goal. What do I have to do? Step 1, step 2, step 3, and a clear step to be able to get to those goals. And guys, this is the blueprint that George and I have put together in the Banker's Code that we've been able to now prove with our students. And that's why we're sharing a lot of this stuff with you guys today.
Yeah, so now for next steps, here's the bad news, guys, is we need to maintain the ratio of bankers to investors. Now, here's what I mean by that. If every person on this call became a lender, we got a problem because we don't have borrowers then. So one of the key things that we have to do is always maintain that ratio between bankers and investors. Obviously, we want to have a lot more investors and borrowers out there than lenders. So we can only accept a select number of people to be the next set of bankers. And specifically, we're talking about 30 people at a time. Our objective is to focus on the success of these 30 lenders moving forward. Like I said, we have to maintain that ratio.
So we put something together special for you guys. It's the Banker's Code Home Study Course. It's $1,497. And here's exactly what you get. The Banker's Code Home Study gives you everything to be able to replicate what George and I are teaching, and we've already taught to over 250 of our top clients and gotten them successful. It's electronically delivered within 24 hours, so you get access to this immediately. Plus, we'll ship you the materials so that it's self-paced. Here's what you get. Number 1, we give you grounding materials, okay? This really changes your mindset to get away from thinking just as an investor and really put on the financier hat of how to do banking and private lending. You're going to learn how to build wealth exactly like the bank. You're going to learn how to make great returns and how to do it safely and securely, incredibly important. You're going to learn to create income streams literally out of thin air and how to get an infinite return by using OPM. And the OPM, guys, it's easy. The way that we show you to get it, it's no more searching. It's not like a real estate investor that's struggling to get access to money. We show you exactly how to do it. You'll be completely blown away. You learn to get OPM with no personal guarantee and no applying for loans. On top of that, we give you 10 self-paced modules. Again, you get instant access to this, and we also will ship it to you. It's more in-depth. It's 10 self-paced modules, step-by-step, a blueprint. It's recordings of key sections of our live event. You get a workbook. On top of that, we also give you a bank replacement report, which shows you exactly the complete understanding of how banks and private lenders make money out of thin air so that you can replicate and do that with little to no risk, totally on your own. Now, on top of that, guys, we're going to give you a bonus. We're going to give you 2 tickets to the Bankers Code live event anytime in the next 12 months. This is a 3-day live event. We sell it for $1,997 each. We're going to give you 2 tickets complimentary for a spouse or a business partner or a friend that you can come to our 3-day. This is an immersion event. I promise you what we've been told off of this event is unlike anything that you've ever been to. There are no outside speakers. There is no pitch. We are not pitching you anything. There's no big price tag that we're going to put up on a screen at the end of the event. This is a training, hands-on workshop to totally get you those 6 key outcomes that I shared. In fact, every one of our students at the end will come up and say, you know what, this is absolutely the biggest opportunity I've ever seen. And so we're going to give you 2 complimentary tickets that you can come at your choice and hang out with George and I. We have 30 people plus our existing graduates from our previous classes that will come and hang out with you. On top of that, we're going to give you a bonus, which is George's best-selling book, The Wealthy Code. This is a story of what the wealthy know about money that most people will never know, and we'll ship you a copy. Now, on top of that, we know that there's a lot of you that are real estate investors that have been struggling, that have got a lot of debt. You're sitting on credit card debt and stressed out. George and I wanted to put in a special bonus. Bankers know how to deal with good debt. They never have bad debt. So what we're going to give you is a special bonus that is a debt elimination training plus a free consultation with one of the top experts in the country for eliminating all debt. This thing alone, we've been told, is actually worth the price of admission. If you are sitting on a mound of debt and feel stressed, we're going to show you exactly how to get out from under it without having to do anything different except change a few tiny little things that you do. On top of that, George and I are going to give a complimentary 1-hour strategy session. Now, this is not with some call center guy in Utah or overseas. This could be with George, it could be with me, or it could be with one of our top graduating students like Tom Bragelman, one of our superstar graduates. This, we've been told, this 1-hour call is literally a breakthrough call. Now, we're going to ask a handful of invasive questions to really get you on the right track because, guys, as part of our project, we want 100% success from our students. We want to be able to prove that 100% of our students can actually do it. This is very different than anything that's ever been provided, and we give you a 1-hour, hands-on, one-on-one session with us on how to overcome any of the obstacles you have and get on the total right path on generating that passive income goal that you have within the next 6 to 12 months. So what's the special offer again? You're going to get the Bankers Code Home Study Course, the grounding materials. It gets to you electronically. We'll also ship it to you. That's $1,497. We're also going to give you 2 complimentary tickets to the Bankers Code live event. Your option, we strongly encourage you guys, this will be an event like you've never been before. It has a value of $3,994. We're going to give you the debt elimination training with a free consultation with a debt elimination specialist, somebody that's going to help show you exactly how you can eliminate all your bad debt and start getting on like a banker, private lender thinks about financing and get out of that stress. It's a $497 value. We're going to give you a 1-hour wealth strategy session, that breakthrough session. It could be George, it could be myself or one of our top students. This is a $97 bonus that we're going to give to you guys because we think it's so important. Real estate investors have told us that this 1-hour call should be called the enlightenment call for real estate investors. You'll be completely blown away. In fact, we've had a lot of people that have basically said this is the best 1-hour call they've ever had in their entire life. I kid you not. You guys will love it. We'll also give you a copy of our best-selling book. The total value, $6,101. We're going to give all of this to you guys as a special on this call, $1,497, all included.
Well, let's talk about actually the result of taking action. This is one of our students, Aurora. She took action, and here's what she said after the training. She said, it's not every day that a course comes along where the instructors under-promise and over-deliver. The course was just such a course where the instructors more than delivered on their promise and exceeded my expectations. This course was very much a roll-up-your-sleeves and get-to-work training. It wasn't a passive, theory-based program where the students take notes and do absolutely nothing with the valuable information imparted. Now, she goes on and on and on, but the key here is this. By her taking action, Aura ended up making $90,000 within 6 months of taking the training. Within 6 months of taking the training. That's the power of taking action.
And not using a single dime of her own money, George.
Absolutely. Now, we wanted to make this as easy as possible for you guys. Now, we put together 2 different money-back guarantees that are going to blow your mind away. Here's the first one. This is our ironclad, no questions asked, no risk money-back guarantee. So it says, if for any reason you aren't thrilled and satisfied with our home study course, just let us know at the end of the 30 days and we'll refund you 100% of the purchase price. Try it out and you have the whole 30 days to try this risk-free. Now, the reason we did this is because we want to make it as easy as possible for you guys to see all this information and to experience it. And it's going to blow your mind away, guys. However, to make this even more enticing, here's what we did, to make it as easy as possible for you guys. We wanted to shift all the risk to ourselves, and so it becomes a no-brainer for you guys. Here's the second better than money-back guarantee, which is for the next 12 months, come to any 3-day live event, and if for any reason you aren't thrilled and satisfied with our live event, just let us know at the end of the 3rd day, and we'll refund you 100% of the purchase price, guys. Try it out, and you have the whole 3 days to decide risk-free. Now, here's what we're trying to do. We're saying a lot of people out there would tell you, come for the first 2 hours or come for the first half day or whatever. We're telling you come for all 3 days to this live event, and you've got a whole 12 months to come to one of those. And if at the end of the 3rd day you aren't blown away by the information, just ask for your money back. This is stuff that private lenders have done for decades for a good reason. It works, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. So come and check it out, guys, and we're making it as easy as possible for you guys.
And not only that, George, come to one of the live events. Like I said, there are no outside speakers. This is a hands-on training where you get all those 6 key outcomes, all the training. You come out of this, and you'll be blown away. If for any reason that this is not something that's right for you, or you have a question of our integrity or the reality of this business working for you whatsoever during that live event, you can come to the back of the room, and we will not have anybody as a guilt trip team trying to convince you otherwise. You can literally write on a piece of paper, hand it to George, myself, one of the people at the event, ask for your money back, no questions asked, because I'll tell you, we've never had anybody ask for their money back. This will completely blow you away.
Now, let's talk about why we do this. There's a couple that came to one of our trainings, Greg and Sabine, and they had never done a real estate deal ever, and they didn't know even what an escrow company was, what mortgages and all that stuff. And within 10 weeks of taking the training, they had done 4 deals. And they called us and they said, guys, we just wanted to say you have changed our lives. You have changed our lives. We are 3 or 4 more loans away from never having to work ever again. And to us, that is more important than anything, because all the money we make in this world, we can't take with us when we pass on. So it's things like this that really make us do this. But here's what's interesting, is that given that these guys had never done a deal before in real estate, on their second deal ever, they did a 7.5 times leverage on the second deal. Now, what does that mean? That means they took, let's just say, $10,000 and they turned it into $75,000 and lent it out, just like we talked about earlier. But on the second deal ever, they did 7.5 times leverage. Now, we show people how to do 10 times and 15 times. but it blew our mind away when Greg and Sabine did 7.5 times on their second deal, and they didn't even know what an escrow company was. So that was a great feeling there to help change people's lives. Gary, you want to take this?
Yeah, and one of the things, we're working, as I mentioned earlier, to have 100%, not 95% success, 100% success of our students, and it's really, really important for us to do that because of our book launch. Here's just a couple. We've got dozens of people that we could share their stories, but Rebecca Cavagnari, Rebecca had no real estate experience. She'd never actually bought or flipped a property, been to a handful of seminars. She made 6 figures in her first 4 months of actually going through the materials. And right now, Rebecca is building a $20 million fund. She's like, this is a no-brainer, and she's building a $20 million fund. When I talk to you guys about taking it big, Rebecca is an example of that. We've got a handful of students that are doing that right now. Michael Manning, he had 0 passive income, and in 6 months, he was generating positive monthly cash flow of $8,000. Michael was one of the graduates that came back to our last event and stood up and said, guys, this is the easiest thing I've ever seen. I'm spending, I promise you, less than 4 hours a month right now doing private lending. And he spends a lot of time with his wife, and they hang out, they travel like crazy. Tom Bregelman, I mentioned him earlier. He was dead broke. In fact, he got up and spoke at our last event. He went through a bankruptcy, lost everything. In fact, he came out to our event from Minnesota and drove because he didn't have enough money for a plane ticket. He made 6 figures in his first 6 months. He's a completely changed guy. It's really, really cool. He's an inspiration to all of us. And he's on track this year to do over 7 figures. Guys, we show you how you are 5 loans or pieces of paper from making 6 figures in this current market. This is one of the best markets we've ever seen because real estate investors need access to cash, and the deals are everywhere. We've got dozens of people. We got Jean Griswold, Carolyn Francis in Pennsylvania. She was a hardworking wholesaler with some degrees of success, and she's literally on fire right now doing deals. And she said, I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
So to order, go to www.reisecrets.com/offer. That's reisecrets.com/offer. Or you can pick up the phone and call toll-free 888-298-6345. Again, that's 888-298-6345.
So guys, again, you get the home study course for $14.97. We give you 2 tickets, free tickets that you can come anytime in the next 12 months to the Bankers Code live event, the debt elimination training, which will get you out of any debt and the stress that you have, plus free consultation with a professional that really can help you, $497 value, a 1-hour strategy session with either George, myself, or one of our top graduating students, and a copy of the best-selling book, The Wealthy Code. That's a $6,101 value. We said $14.97, and guys, we're going to do something incredible. For 30 people only, this is all we can do. If you're number 31 or 32, please don't, give the person on the phone. It's 30 people. It's $997. Not only that, you get access to this immediately within 24 hours. You're going to get an electronic shipment of everything. Plus, we're going to deliver to your house or to your office, wherever you'd like, a copy of the materials. The entire thing, $997. We give you a no questions asked 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can come anytime in the next 12 months to the live event. If you're not totally blown away, 100%, that this isn't the best thing that you've seen, that it works, that George and I are the real deal, you've been able to talk to other students, if you're not totally blown away, at the end of the 3rd day, you can ask for 100% of your money back, and you'll have no guilt trip team at the back of the room. So we wanted to make it extremely easy for you guys.
Once again, we're looking for 30 people to join our program for $997. Now, to become one of the first 30 future private lenders and start generating passive income immediately, go ahead and visit www.reisecrets.com/offer. Once again, www.reisecrets.com/offer. Or you can pick up the phone and call 888-298-6345. Once again, 888-298-6345. Now, I'd like to wrap this call by talking about what's going on the market right now. As many of you know, we're experiencing the largest transfer of wealth in our lifetime. I'm going to say that again. We are experiencing, and we're in the midst of the largest transfer of wealth in our lifetime. This is the market that the wealthiest investors out there talk about, like Donald Trump and all these guys. That's what we're in the perfect storm, guys. This is the time to do something about what's going on. 3-4 years from now, we'll all look back at this time and say one of two things. Either I'm glad I did it, or I wish I did it. That decision is up to you. But recognize that it all starts today. Many people out there, what cracks me up is that many people out there play victim to this economy, yet there are other people right now becoming multi-millionaires in the same economy. So whether you do this or not, I invite you to just get up and participate in tapping into this massive transfer of wealth happening right now. More millionaires will be made now and for the next few years than any other time in our lifetime. I'm going to say that again, guys. More millionaires will be made now and for the next few years than any other time in our lifetime. The question you have to ask yourself is, are you one of them? You have to recognize that that is your decision. We've made it extremely easy for anyone to try this and find out for themselves. Stacy, I want to thank you so much for having us on the call. We really, really appreciate it.
Hey, George, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to share this information. And Gary, thank you as well. Guys, you gave out some amazing information today on today's training session. I really appreciate it, and I took pages full of notes, and I'm sure that everyone else did as well. So thank you so much for sharing this information and teaching us all how we can make money just like the banks. Now, one of the things I didn't talk to you guys about it at the beginning of the call, and I probably should have mentioned it, but I actually used to be a hedge fund manager. And so this is right up my alley as well. And I'll tell you, we used to have a saying when I was in the hedge fund business, and I know you guys have heard the saying as well. Money is always looking for a home. And that's exactly what you guys are teaching right now. There are people out there who have lost a lot of money in the stock market recently, and they're scared. They don't understand what's going on with this debt crisis here in the U.S. and overseas, and they're wanting to pull their money out of the stock market, but they still want a safe, secure investment. And that's exactly what you guys are talking about doing, going out there and finding that money because it's looking for a home and then lending it back out to people who need it to invest in properties. It's brilliant. And you just sit back and make the spread just like the banks do. That's absolutely brilliant. So I want to thank you guys for sharing that information, and I want to encourage everyone to take advantage of this offer. It's absolutely amazing. Go over to reisecrets.com/offer right now. Get your order in. That's reisecrets.com/offer, or you can give us a call at 888-298-6345. And again, that number is 888-298-6345. But try to go to the website if you can, because really just try to it's just faster through the website. Only call in if you're having problems on the website or if you really have an important question to ask. And one thing I want to ask is, because we've only got a handful of operators standing by live to take your phone calls, you don't have to call in and ask if you were one of the 30. The website is coded with a special pop-up. As soon as those first 30 orders are gone, a pop-up will appear, and it will say, sorry, you're not one of all the 30 are gone. So unless you see that pop-up, you don't have to call in and take up an operator's time just to ask them if you were one of the first 30. So, again, go to reisecrets.com/offer right now, or give us a call at 888-298-6345. And guys, one of the things I wanted to mention that I was thinking of while I was listening to the presentation is, you've never, ever, ever, I've never seen a real estate investor, unless it's Donald Trump, with his name on the side of a building. But you see, banks own all the biggest buildings in the world, typically, and their names are plastered over across all of those big banks. It's the banks that are making all the money, isn't it?
It is, and this is why doing this model and becoming a private lender is one of the best markets ever, because there are incredible. What is, real estate investors, their number one issue is getting access to money in this market, and there's no bank financing. Conventional financing is not out there, and it's just incredible, Stacy, that it's not just George and I. We've been able to get ordinary, normal people across America to be able to take this model and implement it and generate a substantial amount of wealth for themselves and for their families. We have this wonderful lady. Her name is Nita. She's here in California. She's a nurse. She's been a nurse in an ICU, works a lot of hours, and she got up at one of our live events recently, literally broke down in tears, gave George and I a hug, and had closed her first 5 lending deals. And she
Wow.
said, I've always wanted to do real estate investing, never actually did, and she's already done 5 deals. We have an airline pilot who works for American Airlines. He was actually on the front of our stage. We had a little panel discussion where we bring up some of our graduate students, and David got up and talked about he has one borrower that is a substantial, it's a 6-figure a month income stream to him. Now, that's not what we're saying is the norm, but one borrower for David, the airline pilot, is worth 6 figures, and by the way, that's 6 figures a month, not even 6 figures a year.
Wow.
So It's just incredible, and these are simple practices. If people follow the blueprint and the teaching that George and I have laid out, and that we've worked over 18 months continuously hands-on with students around the country, it's just incredible the life changes that we're seeing. And that's why we're doing it, because it's a win-win-win, not only for a lot of us who have been searching for that right opportunity, but all of the borrowers, those hardworking real estate investors who now have access to private funds, and also all the people that are actually getting into homes. It's good for America, and we're just really thrilled to have another 30 people that George and I can call our future private lenders. And we just are so thrilled, Stacy, that you've welcomed this training session to your group of students. Anything else, George?
Well, I think that I'd like to say my favorite quote out there, which is by Henry Ford, and he says, "If you believe you can, or if you believe you cannot, you are right." And I really think it boils down to, we've made it so easy for everyone to try this, and it boils down to, if they really believe, or if you really believe that you can do this, give this a try. If you really believe you cannot do it, just don't worry about it. I think in this economy, we are in the best time to build massive wealth, and it's really up to people to give it a try.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And the orders are already coming in, guys. We have less than 30 spots available right now, so you want to go to reisecrets.com/offer. Get your order in right now. You have absolutely nothing to lose. You're completely backed by this 30-day money-back guarantee. Get it in your hands, get them the training, and go through it. Make sure it's everything that they said that it is, and more. And on top of that, you guys have 12 months to go to one of their live training events. It's a 3-day live training event, and I've heard nothing but fantastic reviews from their training. Everybody who goes is just completely blown away. You've got an entire year to go to one of their live trainings and get hands-on training where they're going to literally walk you through step by step how you can get set up as a private lender and start making money out of thin air just like the banks do. And so how could you lose with an offer like that? Just do it, guys, and give it a shot. What do you have to lose? If you don't do this, what are you going to do to change your financial future and to change your life? You've got to do something. And let me tell you, this is something that I think you need to do, and you need to do it now. Go to reisecrets.com/offer, or give us a call at 888-298-6345. And guys, I was thinking of something else while I was listening to the presentation. A really good friend of mine is a senior vice president for a small regional bank here or up in Dallas, and they have branches in Oklahoma and Texas is all. And I know the owners of the bank, and I've got to meet them through my friend, and those guys fly around. They fly back and forth from Oklahoma to Texas on their 2 private jets. How many real estate investors do we know, other than Trump again, who have their own private jets? But here these guys are, and they just own banks in Oklahoma and Texas. They don't own Chase or Bank of America or Wells Fargo. They own a bank that no one's ever heard of. But they've got 2 private jets. It's 2 brothers out of Oklahoma, and they've got private jets. And when so many real estate investors don't have private jets, and that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
It is, and actually there's the old saying that real estate investors may become millionaires and bankers become billionaires. And you know what? Bankers and private lenders are higher in the food chain. And especially in a market right now, this is one of the best times. The profits are substantial. Real estate investors need the money, and the blueprint is so simple that people are shocked. When we actually take people through the training, they're absolutely shocked how simple the concept of banking truly is. And it was George's brainchild that actually even enlightened me a couple of years ago. When I saw this, I said, George, this is so incredible that we need to be able to share this with other people like us, ordinary people, that could actually not only change the financial future for themselves and their kids and their families, but also a lot of other people and future generations. And we're thrilled to have the opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. And I'm thrilled that you guys shared this information today. Thanks so much. And again, guys, orders are still coming in. There aren't 30 spots left. I don't have time to go through all the emails and count them up one at a time to see how many orders there are. But the orders are coming in. They're going to continue to come in. Just do it. You've got nothing to lose. You're completely protected by a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like it for any reason, just send it back. But I guarantee you're not going to be sending it back because it's the real deal. Learn how to make money out of thin air using none of your own money and none of your own credit. Remember, you're not going to be loaning out your money. You probably don't have any money to loan out. You're going to be loaning out other people's money, and you're just going to be taking the spread. You're going to be creating money out of thin air. You're going to be creating exactly what we talked about at the beginning of the call, massive passive cash flow. That's what it's all about. So go to reisecrets.com/offer right now and get your order in. That's reisecrets.com/offer. Or if you have to give us a call us at 888-298-6345. Gary, George, again, I want to thank you guys. Thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day. I really, really appreciate it. Do you guys have any final thoughts you want to say before we sign off?
No, just other than that, we look forward to the next 30 future private lenders, and we look forward to delivering our very best to you. And thank all of you for spending time with us on this call.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. George, thank you very much. Gary, thank you very much. You guys have a great rest of the day, and thanks so much for sharing this information.
Thanks,
Take care.
Casey. Take care.